Good evening, Nigeria. On June 12, when we launched this town square, we asked whether democracy had deepened or merely endured. Tonight, as Nigeria turns 65, we return with a question even more personal and fundamental. Who is a Nigerian? Is it what the Constitution says, a passport, a voter's card, a place of birth? Or perhaps it's something deeper like a sense of belonging, dignity and pride in a country that claims you as much as you claim it. Truth is, being proud of your country doesn't come automatically. It takes more than flags and anthems. It comes from trust in leaders, justice in institutions, and dignity in daily life. Surveys, however, show that many Nigerians don't feel safe. They don't trust the very institutions meant to protect them. And that divide runs deep. I'm talking about ethnic and religious tensions, separatist movements, and a politics where representation is often driven by ethnic and religious quotas instead of vision and performance. Even our green passport, it tells a story. According to the Helen Passport Index, Nigeria climbed this year to 88th out of 199 countries, its highest ranking in about 5 years. But it remains amongst the weakest in Africa, giving visa-free or visa-on-arrival access to Nigerians in only 45 countries. Meanwhile, Nigerians abroad, who send billions of dollars home yearly, have long demanded a say in our future. By the way, a bill to allow diaspora voting passed second reading in the National Assembly last year, and it's now at its most advanced stage ever, offering Nigeria a once-in-a-generation chance to change that story. And while government after government has tried rebranding campaigns and reorientation drives, many argue that until corruption, insecurity, and lack of opportunity are addressed, symbols alone won't restore pride. So tonight, we ask, who belongs and on what terms? What makes us proud or ashamed to call ourselves Nigerians? And what must really change for every citizen at home and abroad to feel this nation is truly theirs? This is the Independence Day edition of the TVC Town Square series, live from our studios here in Lagos. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. Well, we are joined by a live audience whose energy, questions and participations will fuel this conversation, including students of the University of Lagos, the Nigerian Institute of Journalism, and the School of Fisheries. Please put your hands together for yourselves. Thank you so much for coming. And to you watching across Nigeria and beyond, your voice matters too. You can join the conversation right now with the hashtag TVC Town Square. Remember to tag us at TVC News NG and at Nifemi Oguntoye. Tonight, as Nigeria marks 65 years of independence, we are joined by 4 formidable voices, each offering a unique perspective on what it truly means to be Nigerian and what it will take to build a nation we can all be proud of. First, let's bring in Kenneth Ikenwa, lecturer at the University of Lagos, representing both academia and a younger generation of Nigerians. He combines research-driven analysis with the lived experience of a democracy-born generation. Put your hands together for him as he comes in. He brings with him the voice of the future into this conversation about identity and nation building. Thank you so much for joining us. Also with us is GT Ogunye, one of Nigeria's most respected constitutional lawyers. For more than 2 decades, Mr. Ogunye has been at the forefront of using law to defend rights, deepen democracy, and promote constitutional rule. He brings that clarity to bear at today's Town Square. Please put your hands together for him. Now let's introduce you to a veteran journalist and media entrepreneur, Kadaria Ahmed, CEO of Daria Media. From our early days at the BBC to decades of broadcasting here in Nigeria, Kadaria has built a reputation for asking tough questions of leaders and citizens alike. And tonight she'll be answering our own questions. She brings sharp insight into how media, narratives, and accountability shape our sense of nationhood.
Thank you.
And finally, Lanre Isaonilu, Director General of the National Orientation Agency, a journalist turned image maker. He now leads the agency that has come under scrutiny over the years about the very task of shaping Nigeria's national identity and values. His mandate goes to the heart of tonight's discussion as we begin to look at issues of belonging, unity, and pride in our country. Hopefully, he joins us on time to catch up with this conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, the TVC News Town Square is now in session. Thank you so much for staying with us, everyone. Some ground rules now. My panelists have 3 minutes per question. I'll follow up with relevant questions during that period. You can also signify if you would like to follow up on anything any other speaker has talked about. Members of the live audience will get 30 seconds to ask questions. We'll take comments and questions at interval from our online viewers. So keep the hashtag going. It's hashtag TVC Town Square. Remember to tag at TVC News NG and at Nifemi Oguntoye. To keep the conversation sharp, inclusive, and spontaneous, I would respectfully interject if I think you're spending too much time. So thank you so much in advance. Once again, please put your hands together for my panelists. I'd like us to begin with something really light. I think it's only Kadaria that has her age online. I tried checking every other person. I wanted to know if we have someone on the panel who is older than Nigeria 65. Mr. Ogunya, you're my prime suspect. You're not.
You're dead wrong.
Absolutely. So it speaks to the heart of our conversation because on 1st October 1960, the streets of Lagos and beyond were filled with jubilant crowds, people who were quite excited because at the back of their mind, they are thinking independence meant dignity, it meant opportunity, and a country that they can really be proud of. I'd like us to begin by exploring what you think if those people are looking back today, 65 years after. Do you think they'll be proud? Do you think Nigeria, where we are right now, is close to what they hoped for on that very day? Ladies first, right? Let's begin with Kadaria.
Start with her.
The answer is no. I don't think the people we call our founding fathers, Sardauna of Sokoto, Awolowo, Chief Awolowo, Zeke, and all the people who fought for independence from the British, imagined that this was the Nigeria that they were fighting for.
Let me interject for a minute.
Yes.
We're streaming live Mr. President's speech at the National Art Theatre, right? But you can keep watching this conversation online on all the platforms that is showing on your screen. Please go ahead.
Okay, so I was saying that the dream of the founding fathers who fought for independence from the British was of a proper federation, of a place where people will thrive, of, like you said, dignity, of safety, of security. But beyond that, they actually had really big dreams that went beyond Nigeria. They also thought that Nigeria was positioned on the continent as the biggest black nation on earth, to not just drive changes on the continent, but also to help diaspora black people to gain their dignity globally. And I think everybody will agree that where we are today is not exactly where they thought we would be 60-something years after independence. Having said that, I always tell people that nation building is not a one-day job. You know, it's not a short-term thing that you do.
Indeed.
65 years is a very small country in the larger scheme of things. And I think it is the reason why there are many people who remain hopeful about Nigeria, because they're looking at just how many years have we spent versus, you know, maybe democracies, say like the United States, that are over 200 years old. And yet we're watching them go through, if you like, a reckoning, because their own foundation, very similar to our own foundation, was not properly set. And that's the problem with building on shaky foundations. If you do not get the foundation right, then whatever you put on top, sooner or later, will begin to wobble. And I think as it is with Nigeria, so it is with a place like the United States, which was, you know, based on dispossession of land from natives, slavery, and all sorts of other things. And it's the same thing with Nigeria. The British did not want us to succeed. There's a reason they brought us together, you know, and we basically didn't have a lot in common. We were a commercial enterprise that they then tried to build into a nation. And of course, it didn't work. But we have to take some responsibility for some of that at some point. And I think I don't want to sort of dominate, so I better just let other people chip in. Yeah.
Mr. Ikewa, maybe I should come to you. How are we doing? And I want you to exploit through our diversity. Over 250 ethnic groups, more than 500 languages. I think we have 3 main religions. And they call us a nation, a country of many nations. That strength should shine through. But we haven't seen much of that, at least recently.
I think, to put it right on spot, we're just about 350 ethnic groups. And I don't think there's been any anthropological studies to actually establish how much we are, but we're actually over 300. But let's take it back to your question. Since 1960, if those who jubilated on October 1st were to be here with us today, will they say the purposes for which they did jubilate, they did dance, have been actualized? I want to run away from the trap of saying yes or no. But I would say, give an answer philosophically, that evolving from 1960 up until now, Nigeria has grown to become a fallacy of composition. I say that because many of us had the opportunities to have been born outside Nigeria, but our parents chose to come back to Nigeria to give birth to us. And when you ask them those questions, they will tell you Nigeria was so good because Nigeria was touted as far back as in the 70s and early 80s to become one of the black superpowers of the world. And so have we fulfilled that destiny? Do we have that potential? Do we definitely have the potential? But what is in place? What systems are in place? What institutions are in place? What infrastructure needs to be in place for us to actualize the dreams of the Founding Fathers? It's also important for us to differentiate between the dreams of the Founding Fathers and the visions of the Founding Fathers. Now, did the Founding Fathers, did they have any vision? We need to ask that question. Or did they just have dreams? I think that there was no clear-cut vision, you know, that the Founding Fathers did have. I think most of them were driven by ambition. Most of them were driven by the need to articulate their own interest. And they were not able to divorce their personal ambitions from what should have been a collective vision that will have powered us as a country. We like
to think of them as heroes. Are you disabusing our minds? Should we
No, they definitely were heroes. I mean, for them to have articulated and pushed for independence and pushed for self-determination, that was very heroic. But we must be clear about the semantics. These people had dreams, but did they have visions? Because visions is the substance of which nations are actually made of. We could see the Asian tigers of Asia. We could see what they've achieved over time and how far they have come over time. And some of them even came to Nigeria in the 60s. I did hear that the man from Singapore was here in the 60s to learn from the progress that we're making. So the question is, for Nigeria, quo vadis, what has happened since then and where are we actually going?
Mr. Guya, what do you think? Dreams or visions 65 years after?
I think that the Founding Fathers had a lofty vision for Nigeria.
I'm coming from Ikeja.
They did. Because, to start with, before independence, there was a political struggle. There was a nationalist movement. There was a struggle to rid Nigeria of colonialism. People suffered in the process out of conviction. People were sent to prisons. Okay? The Sikhist movement that was forged, which was a revolutionary movement, ahead of Zik himself, after whom the movement was named, had people like Mogugo Koye and the likes, who were sent to prison. The treason laws, the sedition laws in our statute books that is survived till today were meant for them, for publishing seditious materials against the British authorities. So they were fired by lofty ideals, and they really wanted a Nigeria that will prosper after the attainment of independence. Yes, you could say that they were quite euphoric and, believed that once we had independence, it was going to be El Dorado. You could say that, yes, in our own time too, we also felt like that when we were fighting the military. Right. We thought that once we got rid of the military, Nigeria was. But 25 years after, where we are now, okay, I think that we're wiser. So the point I'm making is that they had a vision. And you could say that even before the attainment of independence, there were indications, clear indications, that they were serious about governance, they were serious about development. For example, in Western region, people don't say this often. It was not after independence that we had free primary education in Western region in 1955 that led to massive enrollment of people. People were being dragged from the farms. God has the policy of the government. It was not 1960 that we had Western Nigerian television ahead of France in 1959. So they were serious about government. And you could say that also in the other regions. I think that individual ambition is evident everywhere, particularly in many of the neo-colonial states in Africa. In Ghana, if you look at the story of Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah, at the time forging a one-party state, you say that he wanted to be the only lord of the manor. And that generated a problem, and there was a coup. Okay? So there are individual ambitions everywhere. You can't rule out ambitions of individuals who are the dramatis personae of that era.
But do you think we have fulfilled that vision now in 2025?
I think that the vision was arrested.
Absolutely.
At what point?
First, by the whims and caprices of those founding fathers themselves.
Oh, okay.
As early as 1962.
So that begs the question of the substance of that vision. So if the vision was
before
arrested,
the military eventually came in 1966, that's my own reading. Because you see, Nigeria came
so
forward.
The founding fathers fall short.
Just let me finish. Nigeria came forward as a newly independent state, a democratic state, with a parliamentary system of government, and some of them had practiced that, at their local level, at their regional level.
All right.
The leader of opposition, for example, before he came to the center, was a premier in Western region for about 9 years. So you couldn't say that you didn't know about the practices of a democratic state. In the north, you also had that. In the east, you also had that.
All right.
So there was a learning period when they got to the center.
But beyond
in 2
learning,
years,
if I
after they got to the center, there was bedlam.
Yeah.
Let me hear you
beyond, and I agree 100% with Mr. Jite, but beyond the issue of learning, I am yet to see any effective leader that is not ambitious. It's a requirement to lead that you actually believe that you have a capacity to deliver something. Because if you don't, you're never going to put yourself up anyway. So the issue of them having a vision is absolutely correct. They had a vision. I can speak, for example, to the Sardauna of Sokoto. You had the example of free education. In the North, the Sardauna very quickly realized that the North was really diverse. Different religions, different languages, and that in itself, if it is properly harnessed, it can be a strength.
Hold that thought for a minute.
Okay.
I'm
you
told
keep
that,
holding me for a minute while I'm in the flow.
I'm so sorry. But I need to bring in the DG of the National Orientation Agency, Mr. Larry Isonilu, who's now joined us. Can we put our hands together for him as he comes into the studio? The National Orientation Agency has been in the news for as long as I've been in broadcasting, almost 20 years now. Every time I have a guest, they always say, what is the NOA doing? They always make reference to what has happened in the past, but we're glad that you're able to join us. Thank you. So I want you to land on that thought, right?
Yeah, so I was saying, somebody like the Sardauna of Sokoto, for example, recognizing the potential that diversity had to either be a good thing or a really negative thing, he set out to create what you call an Arewa identity, an umbrella on the identity under which every tribe, every religion could find a degree of expression. But he understood that that diversity, if it is allowed and is not harnessed properly, was going to lead to chaos. It takes vision to understand that there's a level of unity that is required when you are a very diverse people. So now the fact that their vision didn't come to be and they had their own sort of personal issues is not, I think part of the mistake we keep making is that we keep thinking of leaders as not people from among us. And this explains the reason Nigeria continues to have problems
we have to acknowledge
with the
that they have
quality
their
of
own
the
weaknesses.
leadership. They are people like us. And to a certain extent, the society that raises them, the culture that raises them, shapes who they are and what they become,
Absolutely.
including the ability of the population to hold them accountable.
After all, they're
yes.
a product of the society.
Yes.
But I want us to drive this conversation, bring it home closer to where we are right now in 2025. DG, I will allow you to catch your breath so that you will flow into the conversation.
Yeah, it's okay.
The media is often accused of either amplifying ethnic or religious divides, or let's say perhaps that pressure to reflect them. And if you look at what happened in 2023, when we started talking about Muslim tickets, the Igbo presidency, the Arewa agenda, and that really overshadowed policy issues, because that was pretty much what everybody was talking about, what was on the headline. Do you think that our national identity has been hijacked by those fault lines? Or can storytelling reframe that diversity? Let me come to you, Mr. Ikenwa.
All right. The question of national identity begs further questions because I think that the few years I've spent in Nigeria as a Nigerian, being born, being bred in Nigeria, raises the question and the issues of the crisis of identity. And we need to be able to answer two questions. The first is, who is a Nigerian? I mean, which is the theme for this town hall meeting. And what does it mean to be Nigerian? Does it cost more to be a Nigerian vis-a-vis, benefiting from being a Nigerian? And when we take it back to the core and the flesh of the question you have asked, we need to start reinventing the way we define the Nigerian problem, the way we define our Nigerianness. I think too often we have focused our definitions along these lines that have consistently become variables that have led to where we are right now. We cannot run away from doing a lot of comparative analysis because there's so much emphasis now on our diversity. But we need to look at other countries that have the same coloration of diversity that we have and ask the question, why have they done better than us? There were countries, and there are countries like China, like Singapore, like Malaysia, like India, who are a little bit diverse. And I think in the 60s, we were ahead of some of them, per capita speaking, economically speaking, and development-wise. So, but we look back at time and look back into history and look back at where we are now. Why haven't we met that? Is there something about the Nigerian DNA? Is there something about the Nigerian system? Is there something about the Nigerian culture that we need to take back into the laboratory and take a critical, cursory look at so that we can ask the proper questions and get the proper direction? Now, coming back to your question, we emphasize too much these fault lines. I call them fault lines of religion, of diversity, of well, diversity is positive, of ethnicity, of tribalism, of where I come from, where you come from, vis-a-vis us having a common consensus. And I think when we're able to define what it means to be a Nigerian, beyond what the Constitution tells me I am, beyond having a green passport, beyond us coming together when we play football to cheer the Super Eagles, we must say to ourselves, what is the Nigerian dream? I'm very emphatic on this dichotomy between the dream, the Nigerian dream, and the Nigerian vision. I think I want to call him Uncle GT because I watch him a lot. It's a privilege to be beside him on this panel. If we did have a vision in the beginning, we wouldn't be having a problem of definition where we are now. So I still think that we should revisit the issue of vision so that we can clarify the definition of the problems that we have to face as a people. And then we can actually augment what the identity crisis is and how we can actually get out of the crisis we've found ourselves.
We'll probably get back to this vision because you you keep at it, right?
Vision is everything. Where there's no vision, the people perish.
Yes, absolutely.
There's a problem. I'm sorry. There's a problem. You keep talking about Nigeria as if it's not dynamic, changing, moving society, as if, you know, something that people saw in the 1960s was something that, even if they had pursued it, was going to remain static.
I think
and
I'm trying
not
to project
change
the collective
and
expectations
shift.
of what people,
yeah, but I think there were
right from 1960,
there were
actually did expect of Nigeria.
There were expectations at
and 65 years
independence.
down the line, those expectations are not there.
Yes, but that is not because those expectations were not set. It is because the how of why we got to where we are is very different to the idea of we don't know what we want to be. I think every Nigerian here you ask knows that they want a country where the rule of law applies evenly to everybody, where how you are born does not determine how you end, where opportunities are open to you regardless of where you come from. Those are not difficult things to articulate, in my view. The problem has always been, how do we go from where we were to this place that we want to be? And he was right. There was a degree of truncation that happened. You cannot run away from the role that the coup played, the 1966 coup, you know, where people from a region were wiped out and there was no plan for succession or anything like that. You can't run away from the damage that the military have done to our psyche and how, you know, the years of not having people, you know, being able to speak out and being flogged and people being locked up, what it has done to our psyche. It's ironic that Nigerians are very resilient, very happy, very outward going people. Everybody talks about our confidence until we are domestic. We don't seem to be able to organize ourselves, to have the courage to confront issues locally. But somehow we're very boisterous. On the continent, we are known for our cockiness. Why is that? Part of it is a culture that has told us dissent is bad. Part of it is that military history. Part of it is cultural, where we are told you pray for your leaders. You do not, you know, call them to account, etc., etc. So those are the issues. So it was.
And I'm hoping that we're going
to,
at some point, build that bridge. But let me bring in Mr. Onilu before we go on our first break. We have an audience of Nigerian students who are following this conversation very keenly, and many of them are exposed to a global identity. But online, they are still rooted in ethnic and cultural realities. Take the NSAS protest, for instance. Young people came together across board. But when we start talking about elections, you know, the same young people now start emphasizing all those lines. You see certain parts of the country abusing the others online. Why is it so difficult, in your opinion, to sustain a unifying identity over these years?
Well, thank you very much. Notwithstanding that I came in late due to the delay in my flight, I was following the program right from the beginning, you know, as I came in here. So I could tie things together. I would say clearly, I've listened to you and you as well, and I think there is a nexus. I would like to establish that first. You see, vision is limited by time. It's not something you put in place and it's there till eternity. As at 1945 upward onto 1958, the vision was how to gain independence. And all the people that were available during that period, they pursued that with all the vigor that they could have. So that was the objective, you know. The issue of nationality, the issue of identity, you know, as at that time was not something of importance. The first thing is we are being colonized, we want to gain independence, and they achieved that. So we give them credit for the challenge of their time, which they rose up to, and they were able to accomplish that. Immediately after independence, we were confronted with the issue of governance. With people, most of these people we talk about today, Ahmadu Bello, Tafawa Balewa, Awolowo, Azikiwe, they were in their 20s. Not much of experience when it comes to power, when it comes to governance, you know. But they did the best they could. So then the issue of the military came in. But the issue of identity itself, as we continue to grow and we
keeping hope.
The same Obasanjo, when Akoyele was a minister, you have Nigeria, good people, good nation. You know, there's a concept around that, actually branding Nigeria. And under that, the attribute of who a Nigerian is are all embedded.
Let me cut in for a minute. We are going to have enough time to talk about that, why those programs have failed, at least to the extent to which we've seen them. But we're due for a break. Ladies and gentlemen, can you put your hands together for my guests? In a short while, I hope that you're taking note of your questions. We'll give you some time to also engage them as well. From the hopes of 1960 to the realities of 2025, we see how diversity, media, and even our institutions shape what it means to be Nigerian. But if identity is also about law and citizenship, how does the Constitution itself define who belongs? After the break, we'll dive into the legal foundations of being Nigerian and whether they guarantee equal dignity for every citizen. Stay with us, everyone.
Keeping hope alive.
We are the drumbeats that refuse to be silent, even when the rhythm falters.
We are the green that refuses to fade.
And the white that dares to shine.
Hope is not a stranger here.
It lives in our markets,
our music, and our streets.
Every dawn in Nigeria is proof that tomorrow is still worth fighting for.
Hope is a child in the classroom, eyes wide, with dreams bigger than walls.
Hope is the farmer planting seeds in faith, believing in rain and harvest.
Hope is the youth unafraid to rise, rewriting the story of our tomorrow.
Hope is us, millions of voices
refusing to give up on the promise of this land.
Nigeria, our independence is not just history.
It is a call to keep believing,
to keep building, to keep hoping.
Working on our policy and coordination, and also as the head of the Central Resource Delivery and Coordination Unit, we're clear on the fact that Nigeria as a country needs to move forward. We need to recognize the areas of diversification that are needed, but importantly, we need to hold ourselves as political appointees accountable to Nigerians. We were voted into office by Nigerians, and we must render our stewardship and provide clarity as to what we've been able to achieve within a period. Some of the things that are important to us is to bring about and remind ourselves that we campaigned with a manifesto where Mr. President detailed exactly what he's going to do across each sector. And I'll say X years, 2 years down the line, we're able to assess and say how far have we come in ensuring that we deliver for Nigerians and for our administration.
From Lagos to the world, TVC Communications has been nominated for its very first international award, the prestigious AIB. It's a recognition of our voice, vision, innovation, and relentless drive to push beyond boundaries. TVC Communications, Nigerian excellence on the world stage.
Now hope
they carry us.
Even when wahala they choke, we stand gidigba. Hope they waka with us for downfall.
It they gist with us for buka.
No matter the gbege, our spirit no fit scatter. Hope now that pikin where they read ABCD and still get ogbonge dream for hearts.
Hope now the mama where they fry akara, we see the reason say tomorrow go soft for her.
Naija, your freedom na promise. Say hope go always come, no matter wetin happen.
Thank you for staying with us, everyone. Who is a Nigerian? The conversation is on, and I have my guest, the DG of NOA, veteran journalist. I have a lecturer and also a legal practitioner. Thank you, gentlemen and lady, for joining the conversation. Mr. GT, I'm coming to you now. I'd like us to explore very quickly the extent to which our Constitution, as it is, fosters division with provisions like federal character, which of course the idea is to empower inclusion. But some critics say that it has entrenched ethnicity over merit. To what extent would you say our law, as it is currently managed, has emphasized people seeing themselves first as Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa before being Nigerian?
Now, thank you for that question. There's a lot of misconceptions while discussing this matter. I'm saying this, I must say this upfront with all sense of responsibility. There's a school of thought in our country that the suppression of ethnic identity, culture, language will forge oneness, uniformity, and inclusion. I don't think so. Way back, Nigeria was said to be a geographical expression. Okay? And that kind of thought was born out of the realization that before amalgamation, before colonialism, Nigeria was made up of disparate nations, ethnic groups, and all that. That Kideria earlier was saying were brought together by the British, not for the purpose of nation building, but for commerce, for domination, for exploitation. Somehow we've held as a country. And it's a beautiful thing. And the vision that drove the struggle for independence was pan-Nigeria. Because those people that we call the founding fathers felt that we needed a country that was big, that was respected, that other persons who are black outside Nigeria will look up to as a beacon of hope for the black man. So the entire struggle to rid Africa of, colonialism, of apartheid, etc., was also driven by that kind of vision. And I'm saying that in Nigeria, the Nigeria country, the Nigerian state has been managed on the recognition that we have ethnic groups, we have ethnic identities that have to be recognized. It was one of the founding fathers that said that, look, we have a duty to manage our differences, not to paper over them.
But what happens when some seem to be more Nigerian than others?
There's nobody that said that it's more Nigerian in Nigeria than other persons. People say that, but the reality is that, by definition, all of us who are here are Nigerians, and nobody is saying that is more Nigerian than the other person. The point I just want to make is that the federal character principle, which exists in our country, not only in respect of managing positions, appointments, and opportunities at the central level, or what we call the federal level, but also at the state and local government level. People don't emphasize this, but it's there. People imagine that it's just about, if an Hausa Fulani is there, no, the next person must be a Yoruba. That's not what that law says. Up to the local level, lowest level, because there are identities, there are disparities, there are differences, even at that level. If I had to take you to my place, somewhere in Akoko, in Ondo State, you'll be shocked. The languages that exist from town to town, and how people struggle at that level for opportunities, for inclusion. So the federal character principle that people assume and sacrifice merit, by emphasizing our differences, thereby ensuring that we would then be in our various cuckoos and fight, rather than promote inclusion. I don't agree that federal character principle is a disadvantage. Yeah. I rather believe that is an advantage.
Okay, I think fundamentally, if I could, please.
Just a minute. Okay. Because even in other countries, for example, in the United States, where the major difference there is racial, following the Civil Rights Movement, the 1963 Civil Rights Act, there were commissions deliberately created. Mind you, Trump is trying to dismantle all of them now, including the Equal Opportunities Commission in the United States that was dealing with the business of integration, of inclusion, of sharing opportunities amongst people. Because it's possible, based on ethnic identity, that if somebody were to have an opportunity and it is of one ethnic group, the disposition may just be that you look around and want co-ethnics to occupy that space with him. So, such policies as the federal character policy written into our constitution is a deliberately chosen policy to ensure that we have inclusion, we have integration, and that we have opportunities that are shared and, you know,
allow me to remind the panelists that you each have 3 minutes to answer a question and perhaps a minute to follow up. Because if we keep going like that, before you know it,
our time will be up. If I could just speak, so everybody who follows me knows that I am a big anti-identity politics person. I genuinely do not believe that the basis of progress can be determined based on the way we play politics, either based on our religion or the tribe or where we come from. And I understand what he's saying around what other places call affirmative action, the need for representation and all of that. But fundamentally, those of us who are against identity as a marker for politics are against it not because we believe you're supposed to kill everybody's culture or we believe everybody should be put in a box, but we believe that ethnicity, religion, all of those things enhance our life but cannot be the center of what determines, for example, how we do our politics, particularly when you have diversity. So, yes, you know, I've lived in Lagos now for, what, 19 years. I'm married to a Yoruba man. I have a lot of... My life is enhanced by the fact that my ethnic makeup and the way I sort of relate to people is richer, is smaller. So from a cultural point of view, from an art point of view, from the way we live our life point of view, definitely identity matters. But when you make identity the center of the politics that you play, in a place that is as diverse as Nigeria, or in fact any other place that has that level of diversity, you're setting yourself up for problems. Indeed. Because that is going to be the primary thing that people look at when
which
they
has
are looking
been
to
apparently,
vote,
especially
right? And we can see
elections,
that happening in Nigeria. So I mean, I've been called a quota. What do they call that thing? Quota system beneficiary. I mean, I went to
I was just going to talk about that.
Yes. I went to the UK on a Chevening scholarship, not even a Nigerian government scholarship. The British government paid for me to go and do my postgraduate studies. I have been in spaces where people have looked at me in the face and said, hey, your father probably worked in government, stole money, and sent you to school. You understand? There are assumptions and there are stereotypes. But that does not mean I do not recognize the reasons. Nigeria has a fundamental problem.
All right.
Access to state resources are determined by where you come from.
I want us to drive
it is a problem.
Conversation to more specific spaces. Mr. Ikewa, the Constitution as it is currently guarantees freedom of movement and residence. But there's also the reality of indigene versus settler divide, which continues to define things like access to jobs, education, and even political participation. In states like Plateau, Benue, and Kaduna, the crises and the conflicts that we've reported have been framed along indigene settler lines. In Lagos, this resurfaces during elections. At 65, should being Nigeria not be enough to confer equal rights anywhere and at any time?
Well, we seem to be so figure-centric when we talk about Nigeria at 65, forgetting that at 65, we're still a young nation. We're still trying to attain nationhood. And as it were, we're a country and we're not doing badly, as it were. But unfortunately, I would have loved us to go back to this subject of the Federal Character Commission to ask that question before we come back to what you were.
Well, you have 3 minutes, so you can choose which one to talk about.
Yes, because we tend to want to run away from the fact that, or from asking the question. I also ask questions as a lecturer, as a teacher. Has the Federal Character Commission and its purpose, its strategic intention, has it actually benefited Nigeria as a policy going forward? Has it made it possible for us to, in some cases, second, merit for meritocracy for other factors like inclusivity? If you go back to your own history, if you go back to where you're coming from, I mean, I grew up with civil servants. And I grew up with civil servants that you would see shed a tear or two because they were denied promotion, even though they were qualified, simply because a quota had to be filled up and they didn't come from that state or they didn't come from that section of the country. So how far can we promote the progress that we all aim for if we have a system in place that pushes for diversity, that pushes for inclusivity, but is not equitable? That is a question we must go back to from time to time. Now, the question of indigeneship and the issue of whether, as a Nigerian, you should have the right to be able to live anywhere in the country. It's one that is quite deep. It's one that actually we can substantiate when we look at the kind of political culture that we have over time. Now, for students in politics, they'll tell you that there are 3 types of political culture. You have the participatory, you have the subject, and also you have the parochial. And so the participatory culture is the one where you find out that a lot of citizens are actually involved, in the politics, in the system. And this conversation today actually started in my house where I asked a couple of young people the question, are you proud of your country? Are you proud to be a Nigerian? And I don't want to tell us here what their answers were, but I asked another young person, I mean, she's 21, another question. I think they're called the Gen Zs. I said, if you were given 100 million naira and given the opportunity to become a citizen of a Western nation, what would you do? And the Gen Z told me that she would take the 100 million naira, get a passport, and get out of Nigeria. So that's... I'm sure, I'm happy the DG of the National Orientation Agency is here. We have a lot of work to do on the minds of our young ones.
And it will be lesser in value by the time you change it to dollars or pounds.
Sorry.
I said lesser. Of course it will.
But why is that the case? That comes to the issue of, am I appreciated as an indigent?
All right.
Am I appreciated as a citizen? Why would I be born in Lagos, for instance? I mean, I'm happy that Kadera talked about her history and, her marriage. That's very good. I'm a product of 2 tribes. My father is from Delta State. My mother is from Lagos State. And my name is Ikenwa. But I know that if I go back to my people in Ikorodu, at some point in time, they would remember that I am the son of an Igbo Delta person, from Delta State. But even in my own place in Delta, when they try to describe me sometimes, they will say, Omo Iyawo Yoruba, the son of the Yoruba wife. Why do we have those issues? Why have we had them since 1960? Why have we had them even in this century that we find ourselves?
I answered that question.
Yes, let me bring
the question.
How? What's the answer?
Let me
you did say we have a problem with organizing ourselves.
No.
Let me bring the DG in. This will go round.
I think we should not beat ourselves, too much on this issue of people having advantage because of where they come from. If you go to America, that happens. It happens everywhere in the world. See, people have values. Even within your sub-structure, whether ethnic or religion, there are such issues of value. If you come to my community, for instance, I'm from Ilori, there are certain things that you don't want to lose. And if you go to get into the hand of somebody that you think will not value it the way the community values it, of course, we are not going to want to accept the fact that that person should be in charge. You go to America, there are people that cannot achieve certain things also because they may not understand the importance that the community or that the particular ethnic or religious or whatever divide places on that particular issue. So that is not the issue of identity. The issue of identity in Nigeria is because we have actually not defined who a Nigerian is. The chapter 2, we have an experienced lawyer here. The chapter 2 of the Constitution states the issue of social justice, equality, and all of this. That is what you expect from your country. But all across the world, take from country to country, they have a deliberate policy of defining who they are, codified, spelled out. The American dream has its attributes. If you go study the American dream, they talk of exceptionalism, liberty, pursuit of happiness. So wherever you find yourself, no matter what divide you belong, those things have, grown past those divisions. And everybody must subscribe to that. The Ubuntu Declaration in South Africa spell out what they want to pursue. The Red Book of China speaks about their ethics and who they are. If you go to South Korea, you see a kind of national culture that evolved from proper definition and documentation of who they are. Let me bring it home. If you are the two popular religions, let me use those as an example, and I often do that, Christianity and Islam. Imagine Christians and Muslims without Quran and Bible. Where are you going to get the guide, the instructions, the learning, for you to be able to live up to the expectation? So when you have Nigeria that does not document and define properly who a Nigerian is, it's like religion, Islam, Christianity not having the Bible and the Quran.
So what document really are you referring to?
So now, I spoke to the Jaji Declaration. It was an attempt at defining who Nigerians, and there have been successful one. The last one was Change Begins With Me. But it was not a proper, document.
Those are mantras.
It was just a mantra.
Just a mantra, yeah.
And we have had a lot of sloganeering. That in itself is a problem. It goes beyond just throwing mantra around. I must be able to answer.
Narratives, in my opinion, are different from lived experiences.
Let me round off, please, on this. I must be able to answer the question anywhere in the world. If they say, who is a Nigerian? And if they ask him, he should say exactly the same thing. If somebody says, I'm from a good Christian home, without him saying anything further, we have an idea of what he's talking about. Because he's telling us about certain values that we should expect from him. If somebody says, I'm a good Muslim, but if you say, I'm a good Nigerian, what exactly do you mean?
Okay.
We are going to have no argument over what that means.
A good Nigerian is a Nigerian that loves Nigeria.
Narratives are great.
And will not travel out even if you have 100 million.
Stories have their place in our imagination. They are important for foreshadowing what we want to be and in order to sort of help us articulate a vision for ourselves. But no matter how good the story is, if you do not get the fundamentals right, you will continue to have issues. There are Nigerians, we just heard somebody say she will take the 100 million and japa. There are Nigerians who are every day subsuming their ethnic, their national identity under a bigger identity. They go to Canada, they take a Canadian identity. I was in Calgary just a few weeks ago. Nigerians in Calgary, amazing guys, shout out, oh my God. Doctors, lawyers, engineers, passionate about Canada. But guess what? Still very passionate also about Nigeria. And what Canada has done for them that allows them to have that version, that particular level of passion is that it has allowed them to live fully as complete human beings that can realize themselves, right? So you can write all the stories you want to write.
Indeed.
If you do not get the fundamentals right, and it starts with the rule of law, no country can exist and build nationhood if you do not have rules that apply more or less evenly to everybody.
Katera, we're going to get there.
Right? So
I just want us to...
Let me just finish. I think the fact that access to resources is still determined by things other than you being a Nigerian.
Who is a Nigerian? That's right?
No, but there is a constitutional definition of a Nigerian. We can all agree on that.
Yeah, we have not.
Now,
that is the point.
I think what you are talking about is the sense of belonging.
Okay, let me
I have a Nigerian passport, but do I feel Nigerian?
Let's give the DG a minute to just respond.
I mentioned what the chapter 2 of the Constitution says. I mentioned the fact that all of us, if they say who is a Nigerian, we have whatever our own definition is, not that we are going to refer to a particular definition. See, it's all about patriotism at the end of the day. But you cannot enforce patriotism and you cannot legislate it.
Nope.
You have to motivate it. It's like love. There must be an attraction. So the country must put something that is attractive in place for you to say, I love this country, I want to die for this country. You cannot go to UK today or United States of America. Even as a foreign student, you will learn what it means to be an American or a British. It is there, already embedded in their system. You cannot escape it.
So they have a culture.
They have evolved it, and it's documented.
I think they're more diverse than you people think. I have been across the United States, and that is why once that narrative was removed, you can see what is happening under Trump. Those fault lines also exist.
Trump is not. It has no fidelity to it.
No,
it's not that it is removed. It is there.
70-something million people disagreed with another 70-something million.
No,
and
the change is simplistic.
No, it is. No, it is not, because the disagreements are actually quite fundamental to what they think America should be doing.
I think it's
which is why
interesting.
the DEI is being cancelled and all of that. So the point I'm making is stories can only take you so far, and I'm a storyteller. So I genuinely understand the importance of narrative building and all of that. But if you do not build the foundation to support those stories that you are talking about, you're building on sand.
We're going to take a short break, and when we return, we'll explore some of the lived experiences of Nigerians that have affected the narrative that we're talking about. We know how the Constitution and our laws have shaped identity and sometimes uniting us and also dividing us. But there's another test of citizenship, how you're treated when you carry the green passport, when you try to renew your driver's license. I haven't been able to renew mine for the past 8 months. When you seek dignity abroad. After the break, we ask, what does it take to turn being Nigerian from frustration into pride? Stay with us, everyone.
The Renewed Hope Initiative RHI presents the RHI Green Nigeria Challenge. Go green today for a greener tomorrow. This national competition is in 3 categories. The household category is a tree planting competition amongst 11 frontline states in northern Nigeria. Each participating household in Adamawa, Borno, Bauchi, Gombe, Jigawa, Kano, Katsina, Kebbi, Sokoto, Yobe and Zamfara states will plant a minimum of 1 tree to qualify, with a video evidence of before and after the tree planting exercise. 20 million naira will be awarded to the best household. Submission deadline is 20th December 2026. Community category will see local governments, local communities, schools and NGOs reclaim and transform degraded or abandoned areas such as dump sites, landfills, parks and their likes into green, vibrant gardens, parks and eco-friendly spaces. 50 million naira will be awarded to the overall best community group. Deadline for submission is 15th July 2026. State category will have all states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory, excluding Enugu State, have a chance to address the growing threats to environmental sustainability and cleanliness. States will be judged based on the number of trees planted on major roads and inner streets and how clean they are. 100 million naira will be awarded to the best performing state. Already, Enugu State has 100 million naira for being RHI's model green state due to its greenery and cleanliness. Video evidence must be submitted by participating states on or before 20th December 2026. All entries must be directed to RHI Office, State House, Abuja, or email rhi.greenchallenge@statehouse.gov.ng. RHI Green Nigeria Challenge. Go green today for a greener tomorrow.
Nigeria should be hopeful. We are under a government that is very determined to change the narrative of this country, to make this country a great country, a prosperous country, not just for all Nigerians, so that we as Nigerians will be proud of our country. Those who have japa all over the world will find their way back, because there is more prosperity at home, more possibilities of prosperity at home than the golden fleece that we are chasing outside there.
Thank you so much. The TVC News Town Square is in session. We had an animated conversation between Kadaria and Mr. Isao Nilu. I want to remind my panelists that they have just 3 minutes to answer my questions. And this time I'm going to go to Mr. GT and Mr. Ikewa as we explore some of the details that now color our lived experiences and what makes a Nigerian. I'm sure you followed the story of our colleague, 29-year-old journalist Somi Maduogo, who was killed just about 2 days ago during a robbery in Abuja. At the hospital, we were told reportedly that the staff did not attend to her until they were requesting for an ID. We can't independently confirm that. But I want to read a tweet that what she tweeted in August. And here's exactly what she said. I pray from the depth of my heart that Nigeria never happens to me or anyone I care about, end quote. There are conversations about what these say about safety, about policing, about our value for human life at 65. Mr. Ogunye, does our legal framework protect Nigerians in emergencies, or is this a systemic failure? And how do all of this add up to when young people say, when Nigeria happens to you, now has a negative tone?
Connotation. You know, our legal framework, just to dismiss that question, makes provision for emergencies, just as we have in other decent societies. But there is a gulf between what the law provides and the practice that we see. And I think that our society will get more and more humane if we're able to breach that gulf. If you look at the basic law, the ground norm, the Constitution, it talks about right to life, and that life is sacrosanct. Nobody shall be deprived of his life except as provided for by law. For example, provide imposition of a capital punishment, or if in self-defense that is justifiable, and that the resisting force is proportionate to the invading force. So death can be permitted. But save those clear exceptions, nobody. And there's also the right to the dignity of the human person. You recall that not long ago, the issue of victims of gunshot victims who have been rejected roundly by hospitals came. And there was a legislative intervention. Okay? And before that time, there were issues with that. In the case of the lady, God rest her soul, who just passed, it wasn't even a case of gunshot wounds. So why would she be rejected by a hospital where you have physicians who swore the physician oath, or Hippocratic oath, as it is called? So there is no good reason why that should happen. But there's a lot of assumptions these days. And I think that we need to be very just to ourselves and to our society. You know, do you know how many people are killed in America every day? You don't hear Americans saying that American happened to them. By gunshot, people will just go to a church, to a supermarket, a mall, and start shooting. And yet, the issue of gun control is a big issue in that society. I've never seen a situation. Look, if I were to educate Americans, and I want to say this about gun, I would say that you are crazy people. Because when the amendment to their constitution, second amendment that they talked about, was written, they didn't have a fully formed military. It made sense for people to bear arms.
Perhaps
America has become a police state.
Perhaps we should leave Americans alone and focus on Nigeria.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Yes.
And yet, people will lose elections for daring to say, let's control guns. And they get killed every day. And yet they are not saying that Americans happen to them. So let's look at our society.
All right.
And discuss it. I know that there's a lot that is going on in our society. Thank God you are from Kwara State. A lot is going on in Kwara South now.
Absolutely.
People are being killed. And of course, we don't want that kind of thing to happen. So, we have laws in our society. But I think that what we should continue to advocate for is that those laws should operate.
All right.
And that in case of emergencies, people are taken care of so that they are not left alone. We see a lot of things on our anchor that you see people have accidents on the road. And many people, including Gen Zs that you're talking about now, will take their phone and start,
instead of helping.
So as to post it.
We're going to ask NOA what they're doing about that shortly. But Mr. Ikenwa, when Nigeria happens to you, now means tragedy or joblessness. How do young people internalize that?
Well, that it's quite pathetic. I won't go back to the story because it seems to be that there are different narratives about what actually happened to the young lady. Maybe we're avoiding mentioning one, that there is a possibility, a hypothesis, that she possibly could have been helped by law enforcement agents who were the first responders and didn't get the help she needed.
That's why I mentioned that we cannot independently
verify
confirm, verify these narratives. Yeah.
But let's take a cue on that, because we've had cases where law enforcement agents were called to the scene, and we had feedbacks like
that they don't have fuel.
We don't have fuel, or you need to mobilize us to come. I don't know what to say about that. That's an example of Nigeria happening to you. But I think I also want to borrow a cue from Barrister, I hope I'm good to call you Barrister JT, JT, that we should be careful about the narratives we push out concerning our country. We should try to be positive, minded when we speak about our country. But we shouldn't also run away from the fact that some things are not just right in our country. And that one of the major things that make a lot of young Nigerians build around their conversations, this mantra of, may Nigeria not happen to me, is that we have evolved a culture, we have evolved a lifestyle that makes us collectively guilty of having the character deficit. There is a problem of character deficit. And when there's a character deficit in a country, in a nation like Nigeria in evolution, what you begin to find in bits and bytes across, different generations, across different strata of the demography in the country is the consequence, which is trust deficit. So To what extent do Nigerians trust Nigeria? To what extent do Nigerians trust the system? To what extent are institutions in Nigeria dependable? Now, that brings us back to the question of what it is to be a Nigerian, the definitional problem. Now, just 1 minute. I think I would want to end this on this quote. I mean, for me, I think the real question should be, if I would identify as Nigerian, and I am Nigerian, I'm proud to be Nigerian, and I'm living I would not leave Nigeria for any other country. I love this country. I had the opportunity to leave many years ago.
Well, I think
I turned that back.
Right? At least it's not like
I turned that, and I think I'm too old now to start running to any other country to be treated as a second-class citizen.
Well, that's valid.
But for me, the question is, what are the basic things that a Nigerian wants? If we can answer those questions, then we can get close to defining, the issue or the concept of being Nigerian. The Nigerian wants security. The Nigerian wants 24 hours light. The Nigerian wants to reconcile contradictions that besiege our country with so much wealth that we have. How come we have a country that is not able, that claims not to be able to generate as much as 10,000 megawatts of light, but is able to give neighboring smaller countries in the West African region light for 24 hours? We want light. We want water. I grew up in the axis of GRA in Lagos State here. I grew up where you could ride your bicycles around. I grew up where you could go out and, the neighbors watched over you. But now people are afraid to let their children even go to school. People are afraid to let their children go out of their domains, out of their region to go to school. These were the reasons why organizations like the NYSC, programs like NYSC were set up, and we have fallen short of that. So we need to come back to the drawing board and ask ourselves, how did we get here and how can we get out of here?
I have a problem.
Let us hear from Kadaria and then I will come to the DJ.
I have a problem. I have a problem with this thing we want to do where we want to blame Nigerians for the state of Nigeria without talking about the leadership, okay? If your children in your house today are misbehaving, there is a way in which you will look to the parents to see how did they bring them up. 10, 15 years ago, I remember sitting at traffic lights and watching police cars beat red lights. And regular people standing back, including bus drivers. And I turned to somebody near me and said, very soon, bus drivers are going to stop obeying traffic rules.
That's normal.
Because the police that are supposed to enforce traffic rules are violating them. It is very difficult to tell people to do what you say when what you are doing, your action, is ultimately very different.
Do as I say, but not as I do.
To say I don't recognize personal responsibility. I'm a big Nigerian. Everybody knows I love this country and I believe in it. So it isn't me saying that there are things that are black and white. I understand nuance. But I also think it is important that we speak to those who have the responsibility of guiding this country to do a better job, frankly speaking.
Okay, so you see, the people you refer to as leaders, they are Nigerians.
Yes.
So they cannot be different from who Nigerians are.
No, but they wanted the job.
Let me,
I didn't run for
hold on.
office.
We are not talking about who ran for something now. We are talking about who a Nigerian has become, whether he's a leader or he's a follower. And he answered the question himself. Those questions you ask, you have provided the answer. You say character deficit. So whether the person remains a citizen or a leader, he carries the same character deficit to wherever he is. So if he sees police uniform, he's wearing police uniform, if there's character deficit, it will show. If he's just an ordinary barber, it will reflect in whatever he does. So the issue which the barrister tried to establish is that there are laws, but laws by themselves don't make a nation. People make a nation. And people must understand how to translate what are in their law books into who they are supposed to be. And it must be clearly defined. So now, you look at what a typical... let me give you an example.
I just want to follow what you said. Who enforces the law? Because everything rises and falls on leadership, right? Do you expect the citizenry to take responsibility for enforcement?
Now.
Okay.
It's gone beyond the law. You can have all the laws in your country. But if people do not take responsibility, in Nigeria today, there's no duty of care. You may not even have law, But if people have the culture of care, are you getting the point? That lady, unfortunately, may have gotten better.
Who instills that culture?
Nobody instills. That's why I say you cannot enforce patriotism. You cannot legislate it. You nurture people on it.
And that's what they're saying, that perhaps there's a bridge between narrative and lived experiences.
Yeah.
That you can't tell people to be patriotic. They have to experience a quality of life.
Yeah, which is what I said.
Which inspires them naturally to speak well of their country. And that's where leadership comes in, doesn't it?
You see, both the leaders and the followers have a responsibility to live by certain principles. Are those principles in place? They are in the law books. Are you getting the point now? So they remain in the law books. But countries go beyond law books. They make sure if you go through your school, you encounter the nurturing. If you're learning artisanship, you encounter the nurturing. It is common in Nigeria today. They tell you if you're having a building, you're constructing a building, if you want a good POP, go and get somebody from Ghana or Cotonou, because they will give you a better service. But they are not better skilled than our artisans. What they have is the attitude to work, and our people don't have it. So it comes to
Maybe
character.
Some of our people, not the generality of them.
Yeah, but majority. That's why we are where we are.
But Nigeria wasn't
So
always
whether you are
like
now a
this.
governor,
So you have to ask yourself, sorry, Mr. Onile, Nigeria wasn't always like this. There was a time when you could be proud of our artisans. When we were producing, these young people, there's a part of me that feels really bad about their experiences because they can't look back, they can't imagine a functional Nigeria. We all lived in a Nigeria that was relatively functional. No, let me finish. Let me finish. And the reason that Nigeria was relatively functional, I think, it lies in the fact that, yes, we had values, but those values were also being modeled. It's like
fantastic.
They were being modeled, right? But now what you have is a situation where a child who has never seen a government primary school that works, that is sitting inside, half his feet is in water as he's learning, right? And we've seen those schools all over this country, right? Or somebody whose friend, the father is a commissioner, right? And then you wake up in the newspaper and the commissioner has stolen money and that money is in his child's bank account.
See,
right?
The way the commissioner...
The point I'm making...
Why the commissioner stole money in the first place is because there's character deficit.
No,
it's the same thing.
No, systems.
He would not have stolen money.
No.
The problem we have in the country is value erosion.
Nigerians are not inherently bad people.
If
we were, we wouldn't do well when we go to places where things work.
All right.
So, okay?
Let us
inherently bad
Let us
people.
drive this home. Just a minute, Kadaria.
There are guardrails.
DJ Kadaria.
Nation building is not rocket science.
Just hold it for a minute.
Don't let anybody tell you it is.
We're going
there are fundamental and foundational principles.
We're going to get some questions and input from our viewers. Remember to use the hashtag TVC Town Square. Tag at TVC News NG on X and at Nifemi Oguntoye. We're also going to get questions from the audience shortly. But I want us to drive this home because in a short while, we're going to start taking questions and we just have about 10 more minutes to go. I want us to begin to drive this home as to what we need to do differently. For instance, now, passports have doubled in price. The minister mentioned that we can get it in 7 days. In all honesty, I think that the process has gotten better, but how many Nigerians can afford it? I talked about, I've not been able to renew my license, my driver's license for 8 months. All of these experiences contribute to who a Nigerian is and how Nigerians perceive their country. If citizenship is a contract, are we breaking it? And what do you think we must do differently in such a way that Nigerians can begin to appreciate the quality of leadership that they have?
Now, let me, if we keep taking, it's good to calibrate issues and then take them by their strands in an eclectic fashion. But I don't think that we have the time and the space to do that. So in coasting home, I want us to emphasize the issue of leadership. I'm listening attentively to some of the statements that have been made by this distinguished panel. we tend to collectivize responsibility. I know there's collective responsibility. I know that citizens also have their own responsibility. However, leadership is the driver of a country. You know, leadership is like a head. In one of Jivabamba Awolowo's book, he talks about the character and the characteristics of leadership. And he identifies something that is very important. He talks about a leader having the mental magnitude to chart the course. Because, let's face it, citizens have rights. And these rights are enshrined in the law. But in reality, citizens have to be shown the path to follow by leadership. Okay? And so we can talk about passports, you can talk about all whatever. So the leadership of the country must, you know, do something urgent about our country. The people have a role to play. Let me just give you an example. Every day I hear about people being slaughtered, seeing these, you know, in the social media and all that. And these pictures are real. They are real. And, you know, military forces are being mobilized and all that and all that. That is final. And people are being killed all over the country. Now, the president of the country, you know, was interfacing with some people and he said, look, if I have to bring state police, I'll bring it. Why must the president procrastinate over that? When what is facing us now is whether there will be mass gun ownership, where people can defend themselves in their lands. Villages are being ravaged. Human beings are being slaughtered. So if they get killed and Nigeria is fixed tomorrow, how does that fix their lives that have been lost? We don't have the time. We don't have it. So if you have to, as a leader, look at Nigeria and say that we've had this military all over the country now, there's internal security operations. But these killings are going on. So what do we have to do that is different from what we are doing before? It's not about a National Security Council meeting. NSA, come. It's not about that. So you have to do something different. And on state police, for example, those who were the most vociferous against it, including Obasanjo, governors, everybody has said, we need it. Why then do you have to hesitate and think that perhaps the state police, you know, elections are coming, it will be unwieldy, there will be, you know, prevalence of forces all over the place and all that.
You think that is what's delaying action on it?
I'm not saying that's what is delaying it. But I'm saying that on the security issue in this country, you need to do something bold, fundamental, serious, urgent.
Indeed.
Because people are being killed.
Mr. Akewa.
Okay? So I think that it's about leadership. I listen a lot about, you know, people talking about, yes, followers have their own to do. And, you know, who is a leader? A leader is also a follower. I listen to all that. But I'm saying that those who get to the position of leadership need to exercise
your time is up.
The position of leadership.
We have 5 more minutes before we take questions. I want to hear you.
I've tried to,
and I want to propose solutions, you know, because we have just 5 minutes to wrap this up.
I'm proposing straight on, head on. I've tried to look at the trajectory of Nigeria, the Nigerian story. And I've attempted, on an armchair basis, some historical analysis and try to trace where did we start going wrong. And, you know, nations actually rise, they say, and fall on leadership. But I beg to disagree. I would say nations actually rise and fall on systems. The systems we had that made Nigeria a working state, I think those systems have eroded.
Leadership is important too.
Hey, we'll come back to
Look
leadership.
at America.
But let's come back to the system. And one of the major systems that is responsible for why we are where we are today is the educational system. I think the educational system in Nigeria has been bastardized. I think that we have not paid as much budgetary allocation, budgetary commitment, you know, and true purpose and true sense of sincerity to the educational system and the educational sector. Now, when you look at the standard of education that most of us here, I mean, we're brought up with, the kind of quality of education, you look at the kind of quality of tertiary system we did have, where we attracted professors, we attracted lecturers from abroad, teaching in our primary universities, teaching in our second generation universities, and you ask yourself, is that the case today? Definitely, the answer is no. Now, you come back to that same system, and you discover that the system, the educational system, is so much too much being commercialized, and there is no actual reward and compensation for those that are working there. So I think if we address that issue, we can begin to put Nigeria on the path of recovery.
Indeed. 1 minute, one solution.
I agree with what was said about leadership, and that's why I was sort of very passionate about emphasizing people need to be able to take responsibility. If they've asked for a job and they've got the job, then they need to just get on with it. So because he's talked about leadership, I don't want to do that. But that's not to say that I don't recognize the nuances that mean that we as citizens also have responsibility. And my charge to these young people is to really educate themselves about the danger of identity politics, and to understand that identity politics steals from them. It steals from them the ability to organize. It steals from them the ability to unite and actually face a common enemy. And so if there's anything that I want them to take away from this, is to resist the temptation to interpret everything that they see, read, experience through the lens of identity, whether that is religious identity, whether that is ethnic identity. And to think in terms of if the poor people of Zamfara could get together with the poor people of Ekiti and get together with the poor people of Okigwe, are they not likely to be more powerful in demanding change than if they allowed politicians to continue to knock their heads
and divide them along ethnic lines?
Divide them along ethnic lines. Because when they are in Abuja, they are not tribal. I hope you know. They are not. When they are busy doing what we here they are doing with the national cake. The issue of where they come from is very
Let me bring
rare.
Mr. Nilu in so I can get his practical steps.
Yeah, okay, so I will still go back to the issue of who is a Nigerian. And a badly brought up child will become parent one day. He cannot offer what he does not have because he also was badly brought up. If our values have eroded over the decades, so whoever we are producing as leaders also emerge from that sowing society where there's that deficit in character. And when you get to leadership position, you are not going to meet anything there that will straighten you up if you are crooked. So we must take the whole of society together to ensure that henceforth we put in place structure, value system that everybody is nurtured on. So wherever you find yourself, whether in leadership or any position, then you're going to exhibit that. You can provide a fantastic road. The Third Mainland Bridge was done recently. Within 2 months, somebody climbed there and removed the railings to sell.
Character deficit.
That character deficit.
No, you don't know that. No. If the choice was between that and paying hospital bill for his daughter, you don't know that.
There's no excuse for criminality.
Absolutely.
But let me say that I'm not excusing anybody. But I'm just saying the whole of society, there must be value system put in place.
We're due for a break now.
And everybody must subscribe to that. And so we must have parameters to hold ourselves responsible wherever you find yourself, even as a leader. You get the point. But so today, we have you refer to school. The question I will ask you is, pump money into education to go and learn what? What is the curriculum? Does it teach morals?
The curriculum is evolving.
Exactly.
At the university level, we're working on that.
We used to have civic education those days. It was yanked off.
We had history. It was yanked off.
It was yanked off.
We're due for a break now. We probably will come back and take more questions. Once again, please put your hands together for my panelists. When we return after this break, we'll take questions from you. Remember to use the hashtag TVC Town Square, tag at TVC News NG on X, and at Nifemi Oguto. We'll also be hearing from our audience. Stay with us, everyone. Don't go away.
On the 1st of October 1960, the British flag was lowered and Nigeria's flag hoisted. The electrifying atmosphere signaled the takeoff as an independent nation. Today, we pay tribute to our courageous and patriotic freedom fighters who rose above ethnicity, religion, political and tribal sentiments to break the shackles of colonialism in Nigeria. As we celebrate our 65th independence anniversary, we appreciate the effort of our former leaders while commending His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu GCFR for sustaining Nigeria's unity and for ensuring a consistent progress in all facets of our economy. While they see our over 250 ethnic groups, the Road Transport Employers Association of Nigeria see one indivisible entity because our strength is in our diversity. Congratulations, Nigeria. This message is powered by Dr. Musa Muhammad, National President, Retian. Uproad Super!
Guys, food is ready!
Suitable for jollof rice, stew, spaghetti, and yam portage. Cooked to impress.
And cable, great quality, now with the new look.
On the last segment of the TVC Town Square, we'll turn our attention to our audience for questions. You too can ask your questions online on X using the hashtag TVC News Town Square, tag at TVC News NG, and at Nifemi Oguntoye. Thank you for staying the course, everyone. Please put your hands together for yourselves. A very vibrant audience that we have. So just 30 seconds, your name, your designation, and your question. Please go ahead.
All right, so my name is Daniel. I'm a final year student of the University of Lagos. And I'd like to say first that perhaps if we're finding it too difficult to define who a Nigerian is, maybe we can start by asking who a Nigerian is not. And my question as well goes thus. I'm passionate about my country, Nigeria. However, since I've been born, it's sad that I've only watched the country, get worse year after year. So why would I, rather stay in a country where I'm still struggling to find my identity, to define who it is or what it is to be a Nigerian, than perhaps go somewhere, and I'm saying this because of the whole issue, the joke about the $100 million, right? Then go somewhere where I have the liberty to be who I really want to be. And I think this is the question that a lot of us, young people are also asking, and why we would take flights at every opportunity that we find. So why would I rather not do that and, stay back here if, as I've seen over time, things have just continued to get worse and worse. So yes.
All right. Next person, your name, your designation, and your question. Please go ahead. The lady in black.
Hello, my name is Yomi Sikiru Habiba, and I am a 300 level student of mass communication in the University of Lagos. So my question, I'm just going to go straight forward to my question. I want to ask what role education and civic engagement can play in promoting a shared sense of nationhood and citizenship.
Can you take that again and raise your voice a little so we can hear you?
Okay. I'm going to go straight to the question. Yeah. My question is, what role can education and civic engagement play in promoting both a shared sense of nationhood and citizenship?
All right. Next person, please.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm David Oluwagbam by name.
You have to raise your voice so we can hear you from here.
Are you shy?
Are you shy?
No, sir.
All right, please go ahead.
Okay, so I am Oluwagbam David by name, a student of University of Lagos, 200 level mass communication. So my question goes as thus: why is it that after getting or attaining independence, we have not been able, we've been going from grass to grace or grace to grass? Every year it is supposed to be better, but it seems we are going downward in the slope and in the chart. Do you feel neo-colonialism is affecting us in any way? That's my question.
All right.
Thank you.
Next person.
Hello. My name is Princess Joseph. I am a recent alumnus of the University of Lagos and an author. I have two questions and I'll be quick about it. I was born in Nigerian, and because I love Nigeria, I would love to be Nigerian long enough to have my children identify as Nigerians. Now, one of the factors that, bring about the spur of division is the seeming lack of equity in governance. I'm Igbo. And whilst we've had over 16 presidents in the Federal Republic of Nigeria, we've had lesser Igbo presidents than any other tribe. What structures can we put in politics, or in democracy that ensures that every tribe is served equally as one? And then two, I bought the second business last week and I paid the total sum of 130,000 naira minus charges to register the business. And the first business I registered, I was 3 years ago. I paid, I think, a total sum of 25,000 naira minus legal charges to register that particular business. Nowadays, it's not new that there's inflation in the economy. The prices are high. I recently got a property in Ibadan, and I found that the price for fencing, the 10-acre property had skyrocketed in comparison to the ones that I fenced 2 years ago.
So we'll come over.
What policies can we put in business that seem to serve Nigerians? It just feels like I have a country that feels comfortable.
Policies to put in business to serve Nigerians. I think we got the
please.
question. Let's have
Thank you.
Let's have your name and your question.
My name is Oluwaseun. I'm a PhD student at University of Lagos. My question is simple. We have been talking about the Nigerian identity and creating a Nigerian identity. We talk about the cultured America, the cultured UK, and this directly to the National Orientation Agency because they have that responsibility. What is the Nigerian National Orientation Agency doing to make sure that we have a cultured Nigeria? What policies and how are you working with the presidency? Because like we all know, I'm a PR specialist. Like we all know, it is not just about narratives alone. The narrative will take you far. But what are the policies that NOA is advising the presidency to take? And how are they taking it? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please put your hands together for them. Let's see how far we can go with this. The first one has to do with why do I stay in Nigeria if I'm still struggling to find myself? A lot of Nigerians, like Kadara mentioned, leave the country and then they become so productive and so patriotic. Do you think it's a mindset thing, or you think the system there is actually more favorable?
You know, sometimes I wish that young people could have the opportunity to travel outside of Nigeria first on excursion and look at those countries, that they wish to go and let them decide whether they want to come to Nigeria or not. I bet that many want to come back to Nigeria. And I'm telling you this.
After visiting other countries.
I'm telling you. I'm telling you.
They don't seem to agree with you, though.
They may not agree. But they by and by, many of them who have the opportunity to travel, many of the people that have succeeded, going overseas, are not necessarily people who get educated in Europe or America. Many of them get educated here. Many of the doctors that are being recruited out of Nigeria got educated in Nigeria. Look at the manpower
properly educated.
Educated here.
So what do you think the problem is, and how do we fix it?
The problem is that, our country is going through a great deal of economic hardship and stress. And a lot of people are escapist about it. Think that once they get out of the country, life will get better. Doctors, professionals, bankers sell all that they have just to emigrate. Only for some of them to get there and think that, no, it's not green on it, like that. So I think that we can continue to talk about fixing our country.
All right.
Opportunities are still in Nigeria. Many of them untapped. Okay?
That's
and I think that the more we fix our society,
right,
the more our society will become more welcome to young people who will no
Ikewa
longer be restive about traveling out of the country. No, just as an example, an uncle. And that's it. You say it here. You see a lot of Nigerians going overseas, elite, to buy property, to buy houses. How many foreign leaders do you see, parliamentarians, anybody do you see come to Nigeria to buy property in Nigeria? Just start from there.
Mr. Ikewa, what role can education and civic engagement play in promoting a shared sense of nationhood?
Well, basically, education should be the major catalyst for socialization, helping citizens, helping indigents understand the dynamics and the mechanics of how their country works. And it should be designed, the system, the curriculum should be designed in such a way that it helps citizens to actually love their country, to pledge an allegiance to their country. But what we found out in the Nigerian situation is that the system itself seems to be very, very parochial. The admission processes, for instance, could be parochial. You find situations whereby people are admitted on the basis of, where they come from, like Kadira loved to say. And to an extent, in some areas, on the basis of who they know. But we can't run away from the fact that we have committed educators in Nigeria. And I would tell you that all my education up to the doctorate level has been in Nigeria. And I can tell you for sure that Nigeria is the best place to get the best education anywhere in the world.
All right. Awesome. So Kadira, you had...
I would want to just, take a cue back to what...
In a minute if you can.
Yeah, in a minute.
Yes.
Why do we... Okay, I think it's you that asked the question. Why do we have professionals, leaving this country? Why do we have the best of our doctors leaving this country? And I was in the general hospital about last week. I won't tell you why. Maybe I'll tell you that behind the doors. And I was able to observe a lot of Nigerian doctors. And these people work night and day round the clock to save lives, to give life and all of that. And I asked myself, are these the people, when you convert the basis or when you convert the value of their salaries, that the country is paying some $200, $300 every month? And I was moved to tears. I think the real problem why a lot of Nigerians are leaving, and I hope that we can take this message back to Abuja, is that the reward and compensation system in Nigeria is skewed. We need to have our people properly rewarded and compensated for all the education they have gotten and for all the hard work they do.
And just to put it in the right perspective, I don't think it's just doctors, right? I think that...
lecturers are leaving, but I'm not leaving. At least I'm not leaving yet.
I'm talking about the welfare. Yes. Well, I thought you said you were older than living before.
So that brings us to the Nigerian paradox.
All right, let's move to the next
Good things
question.
are happening in Nigeria, and some not too good things are happening. So we must be able to reconcile the good and not so good, so that these younger ones coming behind can say Nigeria, we're healthy, and give their best to Nigeria and become more altruistic than they are individualistic.
The question
Until
here
we get to that
says,
point,
yes,
well,
is neocolonialism affecting us?
I believe, and I'm going to sort of take a leap, the answer is yes. We are caught up in shifting geopolitics. I genuinely believe that one of the reasons why insecurity has become as bad as it has in Nigeria has a lot to do with the killing of Gaddafi by the United States. That opened the floodgates into the Sahel. We have arms now uncontrollably traveling through the Sahel. And we have borders with so many countries, right? And which is why I am really worried about this country. And I keep talking, even if we were all united and pushing, this will be a very difficult time. So imagine trying to fight both internal and external problems when your heads are scattered. And this is why I get really angry with people who push out identity politics that are based on either tribe or religion or whatever. Because what you are essentially doing is you're weakening yourself and you're allowing things that you should be facing together to actually come and divide you. Congo is not too far from where northern Nigeria is at the moment, because we have everything. Africa as a continent is rich. You guys, you don't understand. We have everything. We can trade with ourselves and we'll be fine. We don't need America. We don't need Europe. We don't even need everything that we need to build a good life for our people is on this continent. We've been blessed with it. But somehow we are trading more with people overseas than we are with our neighbors next door. And it's deliberate. The divide and rule tactic is a tactic that has been enjoyed by colonialists for a very long time. And we're entering a new phase. Alliances are changing. People are shifting. I think we're at the beginning of the end of empire. I think we're seeing the pains of a collapsing empire, which is the United States. And it's going to take a lot of people down with it, because history has told us that that is what happens. So even if we were organized and together, we will feel some of this pain. But imagine the consequences for a people who keep fighting themselves.
All right. That's our time. There are 3 more questions. I'm just going to read them out, and I'll see what you can make of them in 2 minutes. We talked about ethnic divides. And then there's a lady in the audience who is saying she's noticed there have been lesser Igbo presidents in our history. What can we do about that? She talked about policy in business that can serve Nigerians better. And then what is your agency doing to have a cultured Nigeria?
Thank you very much. There's enough blame to go around if we want to continue to talk about blame. So, but we realized that 2 years ago that the first thing we need to do in Nigeria is to first do away with all these superficial issues of Yoruba, Igbo, whatever. So, but how do we become, that nation that we all look forward to? We studied what has happened over the decades since independence, and we studied what is going on in other parts of the world. Why do they have culture? I'll throw something to the audience. You watch movies, right? Has any of you watched an American movie where America lost in that movie? If you have one, whether they are fighting the Arabs, the Russia, or people from space, America will win. Why? It is ingrained in their system. They say they are exceptional. So even as a movie maker, when you are writing your script, it is there in you that America cannot lose in the movie. That's the way you nurture people.
Actors don't die.
Mentality. So what did we do? We invited people from different sectors of the society, the youth, the people from the academia, the civil society, women, and we for over 6 months did all this study and came up with what we call the Nigerian Identity Project. So the Nigerian Identity Project is expressed through what we call the National Values Charter, because we know the issue with us is value erosion. In those days, in this country, you may not have read it in any book. In this same country, and that applies to every culture, in a community, as a farmer, you put your produce by the side of the road, use some trees to indicate the prices. and then you go back to the farm, and passerby will pick the required number and give the exact amount there for you. This same country, this same Nigeria, where we care for ourselves. Somebody alluded to when a youth misbehave, the whole of community, handle that.
Indeed.
So we came up with National Value Charter. A charter is an agreement. Agreement between the leaders and the followers. We found out, as Kadaria has said, that over the years, it has always been sacrifice, pointing towards the citizens. What about the leaders? So we felt it takes two to tango. But you cannot say leaders cannot do it alone without the followers. And followers cannot change Nigeria without the leaders. So the two sides must come to the table and be committed to that.
Right.
So that's why it's a charter. That's why it's an agreement. And so...
You have 1 more minute.
Okay, so we have what we call the Nigerian promise. I'll share the document before I leave this place, when we finish the program. So we have the Nigerian promise, just like we have the American dream, just as we have the Ubuntu Declaration in South Africa, just as we have the casing of Japan. So we have the Nigerian promise. What does this country promise all of us? It must be spelled out. So when you come to me as the DG of NOA, you can hold me responsible on those parameters and say you are not a good Nigerian because 1, 2, 3 things are missing in you, and it is already there as part of our identity system. So we also have what we call the citizen codes. That is the code of conduct that you expect from Nigerian citizens. It is well defined. So when somebody is taken to the hospital, because he has to apply that code, he must respond as a human being, not just because there is law. If you go to the police station, you get that duty of care in the police station because they are human beings and they are Nigerians and they have a responsibility towards you. So we have all of this, and we took it to the Federal Executive Council last year, and with the leadership of the president, every single item was approved. And if you listen, just a month ago, the first item, because after you create like I refer to Bible or Quran, after you have the Bible or Quran for Christianity and Islam, you must also have the churches and the mosque where you are going to nurture adherents. So you must have institutions in the country where Nigerians are nurtured on the values system that we have created. So these institutions are 7 of them, and they were all approved by the Federal Executive Council. One of it is what he referred to as education. Those days we have civic education, now we don't have. Now, in this new academic session, it is now compulsory in Nigeria for you from primary 1 to end of your primary school, secondary school, and when you're doing your general study in the university, you learn about what it means to be a Nigerian. So a new subject has been introduced, and it's kicking off this September. I'm going
to clap to that. We have to anchor it now. We have to go down.
Please, let me just write it off. So that is one of the 7 things that have been created. So every Nigerian, no matter what route you are taking up, you meet the institution that is nurturing you. Somebody said things are getting worse all the time. About the person who said he has a reason to want to leave the country because things keep getting worse. I would say no, it is not true. You are a student of the University of Lagos. I also graduated from the University of Lagos. When I was in school, I would go to Bariga, which is not far from the school, to pick up what they call West African Law Report from the publisher and put it on my head and trek all the way from Bariga to Lagos Island, from chamber to cell, so that I could sustain myself in school. If I had student loan that time, I would not have suffered that much.
It seems we're going to have to bring back Mr. Onilu for this conversation. But we have to wrap it there. Can we put our hands together for my panelists? Larry Onilu, Director General, National Orientation Agency; Kadaria Ahmed, veteran journalist, media entrepreneur; Jitio Ogunye, seasoned legal practitioner; Kenneth Akenwa, lecturer at the University of Lagos. Once again, can we put our hands together for them? Thank you so much. Tonight, we ask a simple question, simple but profound. Who was a Nigerian at 65? We've seen that identity is not just about a passport or constitution. It is beyond that. It is about dignity, belonging, and also the kind of quality service that we receive from leadership. The people who danced on the streets in 1960 believed they were building a nation worth celebrating. 65 years later, the task is unfinished. But as we've heard today, it's not impossible. Whether through law, storytelling, or leadership, the challenge before us is to build a Nigeria where being a citizen is not a burden, but a badge of honor. And that's the work of today. It's a work for all of us. This has been the Independence Day edition of the TVC Town Square series. Thank you so much for joining us. I am Nifebi Oguto. I want to say a big thank you to our vibrant audience. A round of applause for yourselves. Happy Independence Day, Nigeria. We'll see you again soon. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for coming. God bless you. Saz, thank you for coming.